often wonder aloud, can't we go back to the good old days when protesters were like Martin Luther King Jr., peaceful?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early through the pear?
Listen to the people, listen to humanity, listen to the Parrot, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot. Listen to the people, listen to humanity, listen to the Parrot, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV. Listen to the people, listen to humanity, listen to the Parrot, Parrot TV, 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 Parrot TV.
The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
I'm at that age where I appreciate every sunrise, sunset, and all the hours in between. The age that causes me to notice the rhythmic timing of each breath. A reminder to thank God for granting me another day. I'm at that age where joints begin to stiffen and maybe I don't move as fluently as I did at 22. But I'm also at that age where I realize many didn't even get to see today. So I pray on bent and aching knee, thank you God for blessing me. I'm at that age where I notice my kids making some of the same mistakes that I did. And I remind myself that although never easy, I made it through and so will they. I'm at that age where I understand that money never buys true happiness. But I'm also at that age where I understand it definitely does help to have a bit. I'm at that age where six-pack abs still attract. But I'm also at that age where the behavior of a true gentleman will stop me in my tracks. I'm at that age where I know what it means to be a woman alone with how to treat my man. Beginning with listening as he explains what he needs from me. You see, there may be many similarities, but all men are not the same. I'm at that age where I realize good things don't come to those who wait. They go to those who educate, plan, sacrifice, work, and repeat over and over and over again. I'm at that age where I appreciate spending time with family, whether we're on good terms or not. Because I'm at that age where I'm losing so many people that I care about. I'm at that age where I'm bearing down on that age where there are more chapters of my life in past instead of future tense. But I'm at that age where I refuse to give up. I continue to climb, to create, to improve, love, and share, bearing my soul to the universe while honoring my ancestors, my God, and myself, while becoming the best version of me possible, because I'm at that age.
Through the pear.
Listen to the people, listen to humanity, listen to the Parrot, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV, Parrot TV.
Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have been participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and
Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. 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 Parrot TV.
The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Hi, welcome to New York Parrot's Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. We have a surprise announcement. We're going to shortly, in a few days, as of October 15th, announce those who are going to be in Series 2 of our anthology. So keep a look at on Facebook and be expecting emails from me, from our Literary Corner email address. Today, we have Travis Davis. He's a native of Nebraska and has spent 2 decades exploring the mountains, streams, and prairies of the inland West, from the Wind River to Wallowa, from the Sandhills to the Sierra Nevada. He studied political science and English at Nebraska Wesleyan University and is currently a designer and on the board of directors at California's first ever employee-owned solar cooperative. A committed naturalist, former professional athlete, and passionate river rat, Davis has been writing for over 20 years. His chapbook, Hands Grabbing for the Light That Moves Through Them, was published by SPCE Poetry Studio. His new collection, American Zen, is a quest for the place of modern man in this wild land. He lives in Nevada City, California. So without further ado, we can get our guest on here if he's available. I think we had some technical issues. If he's not available, I'll talk a little bit more about Series 2. We introduced that cover. We're going to use the globe cover, which will be a fun addition to our previous cover, which just had the parrot. Now we've got the international scope going on, as many have commented that we are basically an international reaching group of poetry comrades. And so basically we want to present that to the audience and to the readers. And so if you guys out there, hopefully we'll get the pre-orders up pretty soon, within, by November up until mid-November, and we'll have it completely available on December 1st. So, it's just going to be an excellent anthology full of our previous guests, lots of new voices, lots of contemporary literature, just like Series 1. Well, some of you guys that we missed on the first series who were guests, we will be in touch with you as well to put you in the volume. And there were a couple of small mistakes that we will address in the Series 2 that I made a couple of omissions that of parts of poems and things like that. So we'll reintroduce those poems in the anthology number Series 2. So look out for the Literary Parrot Series 2 coming out December 1st, and be expecting some announcements in the coming weeks. As of October 15th, we will be announcing who we have chosen for the anthology, and we'll start sending out emails. And as I said, some of you guys from the previous ranks of our guests from Series 1 block will be in touch with you as well. And we'll try to we're doing our best to keep everybody available and get everybody in this book. If you're not in, that doesn't mean you're not valuable. We'll probably put you in Series 3, which that's going to be announced after we complete Series 2. So just keep a lookout for it. So far, I don't know if we've resolved our technical issues or not. Is Travis available, or is he still trying to get in, or what's going on with that? I'm guessing he's not able to get on right now. So there he is. Excellent. Great to see you, Travis. Sorry about the trouble. Hopefully, you were, you're on. At least we got you on now. So great to see you. Great to meet you online. How's California life treating you?
California's good right now. It's October, and we're in the foothills of the mountains, so it's really pretty. And we made it through another summer. Those fires get kind of crazy, but here we are. We're doing good, so it's a good day in California.
Yeah, Texas had some difficulties with our grid and all this during the winter. I mean, it seems like these disasters are just growing in number. Getting worse and worse by the hour. Just the natural disasters, and you guys have fires. We had a winter that we weren't expecting, or that we weren't prepared for. Yeah, it's a lot of interesting phenomena going out there. So it's pretty interesting what we can probably see in the future as well. Hopefully, we'll be more prepared. But going to your poetry and and your writing and some of your various activities, I'm curious, what inspired you to take up Zen?
Yeah, so the American Zen title is a bit tongue-in-cheek. The collection is really about that kind of that leaving ourselves that we find when we go into wild places, and just the opportunity we have to disassociate from our everyday ego. I think the wilderness presents a great opportunity for that, but it's always juxtaposed by having to, go back to the world of rent. Got to pay your rent, got to pay your bills. So there's this constant conflict within those things. And so, the Zen bit is very real, because I have experienced and have lots of friends who have experienced really exalted, meaningful moments in natural places and wild places. And then it's like, hey, great, you had that experience, like rent's due on the 1st, so American Zen.
So it's an ironic title that's meant to draw attention to the ironies of modern life. And so what is it in Zen that you find that you don't find in other philosophies and faiths, religions,
Yeah. So let's preface this whole thing by saying I'm not a Zen master or anything like that. But growing up in Nebraska, I was my parents, interestingly, were not I wouldn't say they're atheists, but they did not go to church. They didn't make me go to church, but it was a very Christian culture upbringing, right? And I got into music and writing as a teenager, and I just, that wasn't for me. And I just got really interested in other kind of philosophies, other modes of being, and I started reading about Buddhism, which kind of led in to Zen. And again, it's not like I'm claiming to be a Buddhist or a Zen practitioner necessarily, but I really, there's a lot that's very meaningful and profound to me just within those, within a lot of the writings within both Buddhism and Zen. And a lot of it's ego death, right? Which is something that again, you're out in the wilderness, you're in the wild, and all of a sudden it's like Travis that exists in society isn't necessarily Travis who's out trying to find his campsite for the night, trying to set up your stove to cook. So it really provides an ego death and just kind of detaching from yourself in society, in culture, with everything that you've been, constantly bombarded with.
Right. One of the things I found interesting in Buddhism was how they viewed what Western logic calls the law of non-contradiction, and how they take that the premise. I mean, of course, you can't, something can't both be and not be, sort of thing. And then there's the statement this statement is false. And so there's like, you look at that either way, it's wraps around itself. It doesn't really present a framework of logic within the Western sense. And I found that quite fascinating about it in my readings. It really challenges a lot of Western assumptions and what we call Western culture, logic and philosophy. And it's interesting philosophy to me as well. So I thought I'd ask you what you find in it.
Have you ever heard of, I'm probably going to mispronounce it, I think it's pronounced Zen koans. I always used to say Zen koans. But I have a book that I used to read and just kind of think out loud with one of the writers from Writers Group, which Monica, who is my friend and contemporary, you had her on your show, and there's a guy named Paul Hansen Clark, and we used to read these like Zen koans back and forth and just like, just be mystified by it and just dive into it. And like, there's no wrong answer, but there's no right answer either. It's just like, you just think on it. It just is. And it's that, and kind of like maybe what you're saying, right? Like Western society, we like to have an answer for things, we want there to be like a definitive answer. And again, growing up in the Midwest, like very steeped in that culture. And I mean, that's not the place where I write poetry from. Like when I'm writing poetry, there's no definitive answers. And that's what is meaningful. That's what like the release is actually, right? Like, I think I was listening to an Alan Watts bit recently, and he is just kind of like expounding on the idea that, the notion of nirvana, it's like, it's death. It's like liberation from life. It's like, oh, I don't need any answers,
Yeah. Interesting. So how do you mentioned you explore this in your poetry. How would you define your stylistics in your poetry, and what do you think is different in your poetry as compared to other contemporaries?
Yeah. So I've been writing poetry since I was 15, so that's 22 years. I'm 37. Wow. And it took I've been writing a lot too, and it really is only I would say in the last 4 to 5 years where I feel that I've like developed a specific voice, and that's what American Zen is about, the last 4 or 5 years of my writing. And it's, I think, I don't know if this necessarily makes me different than any other writer, but like when I'm writing poetry, a lot of it's just, I'm trying to pay attention, like I have a poem that's titled At the Mouth of the Olawuyi River in July. And it's just like a poem of me standing in these tall native grasses at the mouth of this river as it spills into a lake. And that's everything, that is profound to me. Just standing there, like I don't have to do anything for it to be amazing. But anyway, so yeah, I just
flow into you. And as you describe yourself as a river rat in your bio.
Yeah, I love being on a river, man.
Yeah, it's profound. I think just large bodies of water. I love the sea. I love going to the beach and looking at how there's just unlimited amount of expanse that you're looking at.
Yeah.
It's impressive. And then there's like the water itself. Like water. I love waterfalls. Just water in general in motion.
Water. Oh my God, dude! Water's like the coolest element. Like it always. I have that thought too, man.
Yeah.
Like I'll be on a paddleboard in a lake or something like that, and I'm like, we're in this garden in space, and like surrounded by nothing, but I can just like plop into this body of water, and it just cradles me under the sun.
Wow.
It's amazing. Like, how
Yeah.
is that? Like, what? It's wild. That's cool though. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
I have a question for you. So
Okay.
you referenced, right, like even just looking out at like at the ocean, right?
Hmm.
Just by the virtue of looking at it, that's giving you something. You're not even necessarily like out sailing on the ocean. You're just looking at it. So I'm curious, in your opinion, even if one never visits a designated wilderness area or a national park, do you think that is still important for people who will never visit them mentally?
Hmm. That's sort of the if the tree falls and it doesn't make a sound question in a way. I mean, for me, I mean that experience. I would say for me personally, it's valuable. But when it comes to if another person, I don't ever go back and think was is someone else experiencing it, in the same way because I don't think everyone's going to experience the same thing the same way anyway. And if
For
someone
sure.
wanted that experience, they could always draw into it themselves. And I would definitely encourage people out there to enjoy nature and love, smell of pine trees and the liminal expanse of sea and riding on a river and all those various things that we're talking about. But we're going to take a brief break and we'll be right back with some of Travis's poetry. So thank you. Take a
Keep watching the New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
welcome back from that break. Thank you, Sanka Sen, for your live music, and I hope everyone's enjoying the program today. We started off talking a little bit about Zen. Let's see what Travis's poetry sounds like.
Was that guy playing live just now?
Not just now, but we recorded it live.
Oh, nice. That was good.
Yeah, we put the video.
I was digging that. That's good.
Yeah, it's really good, fun music. So, do you have some poetry you'd like to share with us?
Oh yes. And we'll stay on the theme of me being a river rat, I guess. So
Okay.
this poem is called River Apple.
All right.
The sound of the sun sits on my unclothed skin, sensual and seductive. A drip of photons pummeling my flesh, refreshed every second in an unimportant location in the expanse of whatever existence is. I didn't make my lungs, I didn't make my eyeballs. I didn't make my feet. I arrived with them, fresh from the dewy savanna of evolution. The sound of the sun stretches across my subjective view of an empty portion of planet ripe with wind and water. I taste an apple. I feel the crunch vibrating through my jawbone, my teeth, my throat. It lands coolly in my stomach to be processed to allow the continuation of consciousness. The sound of the sun, spicy like cinnamon, tingling and salivating, to give itself to me, to be known by the newest man who is dying.
You know, one of the things I'm thinking about in hearing that poem is how poetry itself translates actual experience, like in the world, into the language construction it is, and how you some of that defies logic again. It's very opening, the sound of the sun. Like no one thinks about the sound of the sun really normally, but there must be a sound. I mean, depending on how you view it and how you interpret what's going on around you, and it kind of defies the logic again, as we were discussing earlier. Quite interesting, and just it flows through the experience itself. It's one unified body of experience, but you just go from place to place.
And maybe that's that detachment bit where because your ego and our body, we only understand the world through our senses, but our consciousness understands that there's a lot more than that.
Right.
And so, I don't know exactly why I picked the line, the sound of the sun, but it made sense in that moment.
And so, the white, there's like a relationship between the and the senses. And I think that thinking of the sound of the sun, it's like, I want to think about Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence. That's another sort of contradictory statement. But if you think about silence having sound, it makes you concentrate on maybe the hum or the feeling of what's going on, rather, because that's all about the spirit of the times, really, that song, and what's going on in the 60s during that period. And so I felt, when you said the sound of the sun, it's like that moment, it encapsulates an entire, experience in a way, from an angle that most people probably would not perceive it.
Yeah, man. Silence, quietness is, the world, your existence feels to expand in those moments, right?
Right.
I have moments where, maybe I woke up at 3 a.m. or something, I had to go to the bathroom, but then all of a sudden I'm just standing in the kitchen, and the world is asleep, and it's completely silent, and it's dark, and there's a moon shadow just kind of scraping along the floor. And I've been I've written poems in those moments where I'm just living my life, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, it just floors you. And it's like you have to pay attention.
Right. And that consciousness again, and that attentiveness is part of the Zen experience. Just like being in the moment, ever present in the spirit of what's going on around you, and not trying to, construct some logical, field of it.
Yeah.
The moment itself, the body of what's happening to you,
is amazing.
Yeah, it's immense. Yeah. It can be extremely, I don't want to use the word overbearing, but very immense, and just, feeling and the senses and everything coming at you. It's like an incredible experience. And I think that's what one of the greatness of art in general is how it can captivate and use those experiences to sort of create a new world. And that in of itself is an experience, and as you did in the poem, you took a moment and you gave us a different view of it. The sound of the sun. I can almost think of the sound of the sun if you're in space and you listen to, maybe a buzz or a hum or something it's making, or it's like a big generator.
That's a weird sound, right? Like the sun is making photons Is there a noise? Like, there's probably a vibration, which is noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the environmental work you're doing, and does that work its way into your poetry as well?
Yeah. So, you know, the first time I ever went like actual backpacking I was relatively old. I think I was 25, 26. And I went backpacking in Glacier National Park, and it kind of changed the trajectory of, I suppose, of my life. And it was just one of those moments that I had that crystal experience of like, holy shit, like I've detached from like Travis and society, and it was fascinating. Anyways, fast forward, you know, I had been writing the whole time. I'd started writing a lot of I don't know what you'd call it. I don't, you know, nature poems or wilderness. Yeah, it's like using the wilderness to explore larger concepts, basically. Using the setting wilderness, and then about 5.5 or so years ago, I kind of, you know, pivoted, transitioned careers, and with, you know, I didn't want to be like poor and destitute, because I lived that life in my 20s, but I didn't want to do something that I just didn't have any feeling for, right? And I landed on solar energy. Like, we're always going to need electricity. We have a huge issue right now with fossil fuels. We for the sake of the planet, have to transition away from that, and it just, you know, it felt like the right thing to pursue. And I fortunately, you know, I got my foot in the door, and so I'm working with a solar energy company right now, specifically California, California Solar Electric Cooperative. And like I said in that little bio, and I'm proud of this, but we're the first ever employee-owned solar cooperative in the state of California, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
And I work with a bunch of cool people, and even though work can be stressful, I dig going to work and working with all these people, so it's really good.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm based in Houston, Texas. That's the old center of the country. It's you know, like we're massive on the fossil fuels. I mean, the whole industry that's trying to prevent, you know, us advancing. It's like it's all right here. It's like, you know, there's a lot of climate change denial, and you know,
I'm sure. And the football team literally used to be called the Houston Oilers.
Yeah, back when I was a kid. Yeah,
Warren Moon, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, you used to be an athlete too, or if I remember, you were a professional athlete, it says in your bio as well. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So that was a whole other life.
Right. So, you know, does the environmentalist sort of stance, does that work its way into your poetry too? Do you write a lot about environmental issues?
You know, I would say I learned, because since I've been writing for 22 years, I used to interject more like opinionated bits into my writing, and then I'm working with an editor right now, and I think, at least for me, my writing, I think, works best when I'm implying larger concepts, and the reader can kind of like figure out what that means for them on their own without me being overly opinionated. I think, which is why, and that's right, we're going back into Zen. It's like, pay attention, be aware of what's actually happening. Opinions are not actually happening. That's more of the mess.
That's more of your constructions.
Exactly. Pay attention to what's happening. Write it beautifully, write it sadly, you know, write it, but write what it is. I don't want to interject my opinion, because that's just more of like ego Travis.
Yeah. How do you think a modern man and modern woman can adapt to nature in an increasingly complex world as we're living in?
That is a fascinating question. I mean, there's obviously a lot of amazing things that technology is capable of, but I don't think it will ever substitute. I mean, we evolved as creatures out of a given set of circumstances within natural and obviously like wild settings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's any surprise that when we are quiet and we are in that setting, it feels like we are returned to an ancient self.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still pro technology. You know, I'm not like no one should ever have a computer.
Right.
Like that's not where I'm coming from. But I recognize that we as human beings are only successful because of the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very relevant, important thing for not only purely selfishly, just for the success of our species, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also what's cool with technology is we get to experience wilderness not as this like, you know, human beings used to experience wilderness as a scary thing, you know,
Right.
and it was like I might die today, I might get eaten by a by a bear. We didn't know. Now we get to actually experience wilderness, I think, in a slightly more safe setting. I mean, it's still there will always be an inherent risk. Anyways, starting to ramble.
Nature in a way, we've like kind of domesticated ourselves and made nature into our own kind of thing, you know, where we can enjoy it. That's an interesting answer, you know. And I wouldn't have expected something as interesting as that from that question. That was actually a very interesting answer. So why did you decide to start publishing poetry? I mean, you said you've been through all these various, you know, lives, and when you said you've been writing since you were 15, and when did you decide this is something I want to do? You know, I want to publish poetry. I want to get it out in the world. Was there a moment when that happened?
I mean, I think I that always appealed to me. And you know, I for the first probably 10 years I wrote, I was just writing because I felt like I'm sure a lot of artists, whatever medium it is, will identify with this, but you just feel like you have to, like you don't even have a choice about it. It's like I have to.
Compulsion.
Yeah, and but I don't know. I also kind of recognized that even 10 years into it, I was still kind of developing my voice, my style, whatever you want to call it. But you know, more specifically, I think within the last 10 years, and very specifically within these last 4 or 5 years, I actually feel like pretty confident in just kind of in where I'm at with my voice right now, which makes it feel better to pursue publishing and put effort into that arena. Because right, there's the actual writing, and that's one thing, but then there's submitting and publishing, and that's a whole other part of the brain right there. So I'm finally, I think, just kind of I'm at that place where I'm undertaking that.
What activities inspire you to write the most?
Definitely interaction with, I mean, there's not like one specific activity where like if I do this I'm gonna write, but commonly interacting with nature and wilderness, and also just like I was talking about, you know, maybe waking up in the middle of the night and it's like this crystallized moment of like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. And so I just try to pay attention for that. And a lot of times, you know, as long as I have the space for it in my day, like I pay attention to that, and I'll stop whatever I'm doing and I'll write, you know, if it strikes me. So again, I guess it maybe flows back into the, like, I'm just trying to pay attention in my life, and things present themselves.
Right. Interesting. So how do you feel your poetry has evolved since you started writing and publishing? You know, your voice evolving to something you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my youthful writing was really chaotic and not really formed very well, and wasn't really saying much a lot of the time. There's a lot of imitations of Bob Dylan, and you know, coming.
Hey, me too.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you went through that phase as well.
Yeah, man, that's a good phase to go through, though.
It gives you a little heads up, you know, gets you started. You know, you gotta get started somewhere.
You know,
just jump in.
interestingly, so this is 100% true.
Mhm.
The reason I started writing poetry is because of the album Evil Empire by Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, wow.
And the way that I stumbled across that album was I went to Lincoln High School in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was walking to class in the South Lot, which was everyone called Smokers Lot. And there were these seniors, and they're like smoking cigarettes, and they had the car doors open, and they were bumping Rage Against the Machine, that album.
Mhm.
And I was a sophomore. I was a little, 16-year-old, mildly nerdy maybe, but so it was a bit intimidating. But I walked up and I was like, dude, what? Like, who is that? Like, what music is this?
Mhm.
And they're just like, fucking Rage Against the Machine, man. And I just kind of like scurried away. I was like, oh, thanks. And then I went and bought that album, and they had the lyric sheet on there. And I remember reading the lyric sheet, and I had been listening, like you said, to a lot of like Dylan. I had been listening to Hendrix.
Mhm.
I had a Tom Petty greatest hits that I liked when I was like 14 a lot. But anyways, that moment when I was 15, and I listened to that Rage Against the Machine album, it was bizarre. I was like, oh, I have to be a poet. And
the lyrics are very poetic, and I've listened to quite a bit of their music, and they do have a way of taking these political realities and presenting them in a way that's like you have to really think about what's even being said. So, I mean, what are they even referring to? I mean, you get to know the political realities, and you sort of can interpret a little bit more clearly.
And that, though, okay, this is a long segue back into your question, but so early writing for me was very opinionated writing, because you copy your idols, right? Flattery is the imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Yeah, thank you. So I was writing like Rage Against the Machine lyrics the first like year that I wrote poetry. And I don't know how or why it morphed, but I know that writing poetry specifically, it like, and maybe just writing in general, but it like makes you pay attention. Like if you want to write well, you need to be like very like locked in and paying attention. And then I think that paying attention unlocked observations of the natural world, where as I got older, they became more meaningful and profound and nuanced and just like, whoa, like what? And yeah, and then I don't know, and I'm a mixed up human who's just trying to pay attention, and right from that place.
So what would your final message to our viewers be?
To pay attention, because because life's amazing. It consistently, and I'll go back to this. If I'm having like a stressful day or whatever, I can always drop back into the statistical odds of me just like sitting here, and the fact that we're talking, whatever. It is just, it's phenomenal that you even exist for however long you get to exist in your little container of flesh. So pay attention and be stoked about that.
Would you like to give some shout outs or thank yous to friends and family?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a shout out to Monica Joy Farah, who you interviewed. I'll give a shout out to the Space Writing Studio way back in Lincoln, Nebraska, to Writers Group specifically in Lincoln, Nebraska, has been really meaningful. And definitely give a shout out to my mom and dad, who I love very much.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us today, Travis. It's really been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, man.
Interesting thoughts presented, and I think we learned quite a bit. And if anybody out there's viewing this is interested to learn more, take a look at Travis's work. American Zen. Get a book, get a copy of that book. And this has been Parrot Literary Corner, and I'm Dustin Pickering. Just remember that if you'd like to support us and help us improve our production, you can donate paypal.me/nyparrot. And if you want to be a guest on the program or know people that would like to be a guest, That's you can get in touch with me, Dustin Pickering, at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. That's fronting down the banner at the bottom there, literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. Don't forget to write that down and get in touch with me. And all you guests out there who've already been on the program, please do suggest more people to come to us. We're looking for creative writers all across the board, poets, novelists, playwrights, and support our programming. So, that you can support us either by donating, or you can do that just to help us find some more guests. So we're going to keep this program going. I believe this is number 202, episode 202 we just did. So just keep in touch. And remember, series 2 of the Literary Parrots coming out in December 1st. So we'll be in touch with everybody pretty soon here, and we'll announce all those that we have, the guests we've had on the program since the last edition, and who all we're going to include in that book. And it'll come out again on December 1st. So I appreciate everybody viewing. And if you're watching on YouTube right now and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Blink, blank, blank. No trouble at all for you. You guys could just take that little mouse and just click it. Watch out for cats. The cats may take your mouse. But, it's wonderful out there. Just the immense gravity field we live in. Just keep writing and keep reading. Keep enjoying life. And try to stay positive. It's a really dark world right now, but there's a lot to be celebrated and a lot to be enjoyed, like this program you're watching right now. So please keep in touch, everybody out there, through Facebook, through our Twitter, through our Instagram, and definitely through our YouTube. So everybody out there, if you're not having a nice day, go out and have a nice day. Enjoy some trees and
Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. 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 Parrot TV.
The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV.